Thanks, Kavita.
Great. Thank you.
All right, let's bring in some GOP reaction to the debate. Joining me now on set is Republican Congresswoman Claudia Tenney. She sits on the House Committee on Financial Services. Representative Tenney, good to see you. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you.
Hey, look, you're from New York State. Mm-hmm. You own a business.
Yes.
And so you had a very personal experience with Obamacare. Prior to Obamacare, you bought insurance in the commercial market for your employees. I think you had over 80 employees.
Yeah, we had 80. We're down to 67 or so. We had to reduce employees just to pay for the increased costs in Obamacare. And because we did insurance to try to attract better employees, because we have to compete against school districts and government, who seem to be our biggest employers in a very rural area. They provide, not just 401ks, they have pensions.
Right.
Even for part-time work. We have a 401k. We had a very, very flexible health insurance plan with optical, dental. We had all kinds of options. You could join a health club. We had all these great things, but rid of them to comply with Obamacare mandates because they were so expensive, and we didn't want to force our employees onto a healthcare exchange because the healthcare exchanges are so expensive in New York. And so it's interesting you're talking about subsidies, and as someone who ran our newspaper when I was in my former life, which we sold in 2004, we are always up against subsidies, and government subsidies really hurt small businesses and they hurt the competition, and it sort of takes away from the model. And I'm listening to your conversation, and we're talking about how it's not working and we need to continue these subsidies, the cost sharing reduction payments. So why isn't the individual market working? Because you still have government trying to provide subsidies to prop up certain individuals over others. And yet, what do we do now? We have a problem with Obamacare. It's not working. How do we solve it? A lot of it's semantics. Republicans want repeal. Democrats want repair. To me, we just need to fix the problem for our individual job creators, people like my business. We create.
So what's the solution? What is the solution? I see the problem. This is the issue, right? The solution that both the House and the Senate came up with didn't seem workable. In the Senate's case, it wasn't even workable enough to get all the senators to vote for it, the Republican senators. So what do you suggest?
Yeah, interestingly, all those same people voted to repeal many, many times on a bill that was much.
I think it's easier to repeal when you know the president's not going to sign the bill.
Boy, that doesn't sound very courageous, does it? So shouldn't you be voting on policy, not whether it's going to pass or not? You vote on what's good, and sometimes we have to take terrible votes, and we vote on compromises, and that's what we end up with. That's the form of government that we have. But nonetheless, this bill was a compromise. It was only a part of the step. We were going to go back into reconciliation and hash it out again. So it was really a partial step. But the problem in underlying, you can say repair if they want to say repair, the Democrats, but the problem is if you don't repeal, you can't start over. And structurally, I think Democrats and Republicans have a different idea. Democrats are leaning towards single payer. They voted for it in the state assembly when I was a member there every year. The majority votes for it, almost all of them. And so now the question is it single payer, which Vermont withdrew from very quickly because it didn't work. I have a son who's an active duty.
You have a whole country on top of New York State where it works.
It does, yeah. I have a son who's an active duty Marine, and the VA is failing terribly. That's a single payer system.
But that seems to be an administrative problem. That's not,
you can say that, but that's what government is.
Medicare works, and that's a single payer system.
There's a lot of problems with Medicare if you're a representative. We're working a lot on that.
But there are a lot of problems with the individual market insurance, right? You had a pre-existing condition.
I just don't prefer the single payer model.
Right, but there are a lot of ways to achieve this, right? Switzerland has a universal health coverage that's not single payer. It's private insurance. But everybody has to be covered.
I mean, right now we need to figure out what we're doing because we're hurting, especially businesses and individual market in my community. We have a huge expanded Medicaid in the state of New York, which presents a problem to the New York representatives. We met every week. We come up with a lot of no's. We kept trying to a way around it. We understand that we have to have a public health care system for the truly needy, our seniors, people with special needs, people who can't take care of themselves. We have to provide a public health care system, and the threading the needle is how do you provide a public health care system, maintain a dynamic market, and then live within the means of the New York State government, which is constantly really just working against small businesses and individuals who are trying to survive. They're the ones that are working 2 and 3 jobs just to try to maintain. So it's a frustrating battle.
All right, well, lots more to talk about. We'll continue this discussion another time. Thank you for being here. Representative Claudia Tenney is a Republican congressmember from New York. All right, coming up next, North Korea has test fired a second long-range missile.